Hi, my name is Martin Large. I'm here with Dave Coplin this afternoon, Chief Envisioning Officer from Microsoft UK. Hi Dave, how are you?
Great, thanks Martin.
So I read your book recently, Business Reimagined. It starts out with the question, is business broken? And I hope you won't mind me saying, it kind of, for the first couple of chapters, paints a slightly dystopian view of the future. Well, no, not even the future, the present. So as an employer and somebody that leads a business, it was all a little bleak. What is the answer? You know, you talk about you ask the question: is business broken? You talk about the problems of productivity, the end of efficiency.
Yes, I mean, it's funny because there is no one answer to that, right? So it's about a recognition that there are challenges in the way that we choose to work today and the tools that we use at work and also the processes that we use for work. And the challenge is essentially this: we've inherited most of those things for all sorts of great reasons, but they kind of don't respond to the opportunity that technology brings to a modern society. So we still do things, we have business processes that are effectively digital versions of old processes that go back, in some cases, a couple of hundred years. And it's the kind of question that, if we started today having had nothing and we're going to build a business, would we build it exactly the same way that we have it today? And my guess is no. And so really it's about, technology has become this prison for many people. How do we turn it around and make technology be the release, help it enable people to do things very differently?
Yeah, but that brings back another question, because I know and don't tell the chairman this, but the last time I worked at home on a Friday, I spent 2 hours down the golf range. So we talk about flexible working. We've got all the tools to allow flexible working, and yet I don't even trust myself to work from home on a work from home day.
I mean, there's a couple of things in what you said, Martin. Number one is, who said flexible working is just about being at home? And secondly, what's wrong with you playing golf on a Friday? It's probably easier to get, access to the course on a Friday than any other day. And as long as you're being sensible about, the work that you have to do, then there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, the whole point about flexible working is that it should be that employees have a choice to be mindful about where is the best location for them to do their job that day. And I'll give you an example. When I wrote the book, there were 2 places that I couldn't be. I couldn't be in my office and I couldn't be at home, because they are the 2 places where I'm going to get distracted. And so I went and I did work in my local library. I found a quiet working space, and that was the right place for me to be, and it was my choice. And I think it's the whole point about choice that makes the difference here.
Okay. But again, you talked in your book and you talked in your presentational speech to the RSA about 71% of staff in a recent survey in the US being disengaged. This is the thing that really worries me. 71% of my staff disengaged. That's a major problem.
Great statistic, and even if it's not true to that extent, I guarantee you it will be more significant than you imagine in your organisation, and it varies from company to company. But the study we looked at was a study by Gallup, and it was a study based on the North American workforce. And if you consider the amount of time that we're going to spend in our working lives, for me, the thought of not enjoying or not being engaged in what I do is problematic. Now, I'm not making any kind of moral judgment about whether it's better to live to work or work to live. That's a personal choice for everybody. But given the amount of time we're going to spend, wouldn't it be great if we could create a different kind of engagement at work that really changes not just the outcome for the individual, but also for the organisation? And so I think this whole concept of connecting people with the outcome of what their organisation does is absolutely crucial.
Okay, so when I'm setting goals for individuals within the company, it should be about the outcome, and I should not be dissatisfied if they then spend 3 days sat in the bath, so long as they hit the goal, they achieve the objective that I set for them.
Yeah, but even in that, I would think, I guess, on a broader scale about what those outcomes should be. So, for example, an outcome is not for Dave to ride 5 blog posts. An outcome is for Dave to change the way people think about Microsoft. That's an outcome. And that's the sort of different bit. We're trying to move away from measuring the process and move into a world of measuring the outcome, the output of what the individual does. And so when you're setting the goals of your team, for example, is what organisation stands for, and what is your team's contribution to that outcome. And if you can empower your team with that outcome, and then leave them alone, because they're professional people and they want to do the best they can, and you're basically saying, listen, we trust you to be professional, we trust you to do the right thing by our company based on its outcome. Go and enjoy yourself, add value where you think you can. And I think that's, we come back to empowerment. If my company tells me that actually they want me to work in a way that suits me, they want me to do what I can to deliver value to the business and get to the outcome, and it's a fundamentally different place from being told what to do.
Yeah.
That's kind of the magic.
Again, you've talked about the fact that you want to see technology as being less visible. So I kind of that to me equates to kind of ubiquitous computing. You don't see the device; that it's just there. It's around you. How do we achieve that?
The most important thing for most organisations is to get their conversations off the technology tools and onto what is it that they're trying to do. I know lots of organisations who spend their time talking about the best way to do email. Oh my God, that's like saying we should have a think about the best way to get 240 volts, 50 hertz AC out of the 3 holes in the wall. Yeah. It's utility, and IT guys really are in a wonderful position where they've always been to a certain extent about enabling the business. We live in a really different world. Technology affords very, very different outcomes than it used to. So how do we connect those to the business?
We talked a bit about technology. What are the tools that you use?
I use a range of tools, and I use a bunch of corporate tools. So you would expect me to use all of the collaboration stuff that we have available to us in terms of Office and Outlook and SharePoint and all of those good things. Yammer is the one for me that's been absolutely transformative in how we work as a team, because we now have all of our conversations are effectively open and transparent and unlocked. Before we used Yammer, they would be just locked away in my inbox. And if you wanted to know, the answer to a particular question or wanted to see what the team were doing, you'd have to ask them. You'd probably have to repeat questions that have already been asked before. But since we started using Yammer, of course, it's this open, transparent communication platform. People can, jump in. People who aren't in the team but are interested in what we're doing can get involved in the conversation and can see the conversations that have gone on. And the cultural effect that brings with it is really, really powerful factor engagement. People care about what the breadth of Microsoft does, not just what their day job is. So being able to have people see the conversation and get involved like that is really, really great.
I have to say, we started using Yammer here. We decided with the marketing function that we'd just do it quietly, and 95 people out of 140 within 2 weeks had started using it without being told. But what I find amazing is, now my inbox has less in it. I find the whole thing a lot less stressful, and yet the information seems to be shared on a much wider basis.
Yeah.
Having said that, the difference is that I now no longer receive a CC'd email to 120 people in the organisation that nobody ever reads, but it's still there on Yammer. Is it just the kind of Facebook look and feel that you think gets you to that point?
I think it's a bit, and I think what's really important to understand is people's personal usage of technology has changed their expectation of their professional usage of technology. So, in the old days before Facebook and Twitter, communicating via anything other than email, you just wouldn't really understand why that. And that's why we struggle with so many of those collaborative forums that we would create on our intranets. But now we live in a world where lots of people, not everybody, but lots of people communicate using social media. They see the principles that kind of communication affords in what they do and what they want in terms of their expectations of technology. So when you deliver something like Yammer inside the organisation or make it available, you don't have to make people use it. You don't have to force them to use it. They actually naturally understand how it works. They see that value. We still have a debate with customers and even internally about what's the difference between email and Yammer. And the funny thing is that as a technologist, people tend to see Yammer as it's just another communications tool. It's like I've got a second telephone on the desk. Whereas in reality, Yammer is a gateway into a completely different working culture. And that's the magic of what it does. It enables this open, fluid, agile organisation to take shape and really sort of focuses on what we need to do as an organisation.
And do you see Microsoft Link fulfilling that between organisations in the same way as Yammer as an internal communications tool?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this sort of personal experience of technology is changing. People, we're talking today over Skype, and I, smile to myself because Skype's really, really popular with just vast proportions of our society, or different sections of our society. My favourite sort of thing is loads and loads of grandparents love Skype because it means they can stay in touch with their grandkids. Yeah. And we live in a world where families are not just dispersed around the country, but they're pretty much dispersed globally. So having that capability to talk to your grandkids is brilliant. And these are sort of playing against all of the stereotypes of perhaps new technology is just for kids or younger generations and all that sort of stuff. And so again, you have this experience in your personal life, and then you come into the office and you think, well, actually, why can't I have a video chat with the guy who's in the office in Birmingham or Boston or wherever it may be? And so people have this much more natural affinity for how the technology might enable what they're doing. So, Link's part of that, Skype's part of that. It all comes together to be those sort of building blocks for collaboration.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about those tools, and I cringe. We had an IT department 5 years ago that bolted everything down. Yep. No instant messaging, none of the tools. Definitely no Facebook, or it might have been MySpace in those days. Thankfully, those things have changed, and we are starting to see a much more open and collaborative way of working.
And the IT guys have got so much history in making this stuff work well. Where we've been challenged as an industry is, the whole cost-cutting thing, and also, let's face it, some sectors, some industries have some pretty strict regulatory and compliance legislation, let's call it that means that they have to do things differently. But for some people, that's kind of become an excuse. I mean, that's a bit extreme, but it becomes easier to say no than it does to say yes. And for me, I go back to where I started in IT, in a world where you didn't have technology at home, it didn't exist, or you couldn't afford it. And so we were the only people on the planet who knew how personal computers worked and how you could link them up. And we went to the business and said, listen, we could really help you here. And that was our genesis, that was our beginning. And I think we've got to go back a bit to that, get out of the server, get out of the infrastructure, and get back into business, really starting to help the business, adapt, become more agile, and change in response to how their market is changing and how their customers' expectations are changing.
Let me just replay that. What you're saying is that the IT function needs to stop acting as it has done for the last 10, 20 years as a kind of provider and guardian of all that is ones and zeros, and starts to become an active part of the business and driving business change.
Completely. I mean, I would go, really extreme, and I get that this is playful, but to a certain extent, you would question, why would you have an IT department at all? And I get that is extreme. Because one of the things that's really magical in today's world is most people, broadly speaking, are so empowered and passionate about how they use technology in their personal lives that they want the same experience in their professional lives. And I remember as an IT guy, even 10 years ago, I would spend my life like some bizarre freakish stalker chasing people down corridors, getting them to care about why technology could help them. Now today, that corridor chase still happens, but it's the opposite way around. I'm getting chased down the corridor by people from the business, all sorts of different places who are saying, do you know what? Actually, I want to use this more effectively. How can I do this? I organised a family get-together over Facebook last week. It was brilliant. Why can't I use that to reach out to my customers and have that same experience? So instead of sort of shying away from that, we should be embracing that. It's wonderful. For the first time, probably forever, people throughout the business want more from technology. What a great place for us to be.
And we certainly saw that in our adoption of Yammer, which almost happened overnight. But not everybody's coming to the party. Not everybody wants to collaborate. What now needs to change to break down the kind of silos that exist in business that you don't experience in outside in your family and home life?
A couple of levels in which to think about that. Let's think about the individual and then the organisation. So for the individual, I get that not everybody wants to be fully digital or immersed in a digital world. But I think we need to be mindful that it's not like it was 10 years ago where, we had this myth of the dumb user. And this would be someone who knows nothing about technology. So anytime you change the IT system, you'd have to train them, all that sort of stuff. And everything became a real headache for IT organizations. Well, I don't think the dumb user exists anymore. And I think, organizations should stop pandering to that myth. So it's a bit like the fact that, when was the last time that Amazon or Facebook sent someone around to your house and sort of said, do you know what, change the interface a bit, and before you can use it, before you might like some training. It doesn't happen. Now, we might bitch and moan, when somebody does make one of those changes, we moan, God, they've moved this from there, and now it's blue, it's red, whatever. But we're quite resilient as human beings, so we tend to soak that stuff up and move on. But then from an organisational perspective, this is the really tricky part, but it's equal, it's really, really crucial, because organisations are often silo-based, so finance, marketing, sales, technical, and they're very, very different areas, and they're seen as little fiefdoms in many ways. And yet, it's a bit like what's happening in the open data movement in the public sector, where you realise that the data that finance guys could actually be really useful for the sales guys and the marketing guys and the technology guys. And actually, if you made it available to them, if you made it accessible, you remove the barrier, maybe they could do something really innovative. And of course, you have to be mindful about how much you share, but if you think about most organisations today, their sort of primary starting position is that everything's closed, right? I'm not going to share anything outside my team or outside my department. If you flip that around and say, actually, everything I do is open, except for a small minority of things, actually, you're creating this environment where that kind of innovation can flourish within the boundaries of the organisation.
So this afternoon, I've been talking to Dave Coplin, Chief Envisioning Officer at Microsoft. Dave, should mention your book, Business Reimagined, which I promise you I have read. Fascinating insight into changing the way we work and the cultural change required. It's been great talking to you. Thank you, Dave.